Hi, welcome to the Spirit of Prophecy. I'm your host, Luther Mark. In this video, we'll be getting into Revelation chapter 4. So let's get into it. Well, I am very excited to get into chapter 4 in the book of Revelation. I'm going to be showing you some things that you've probably never heard before, but that's okay. I've learned them from other people, and it's some stuff I feel like the Lord has shown me, and of course I want to share it with you. So in getting started, you may have noticed I'm wearing a t-shirt here, and it's got a big key on it. It says Isaiah 22:22. And it says, "The key of the house of David I will lay on his shoulder, so he shall open and no one shall shut, and he shall shut and no one shall open." And so one of the things I revealed in that last video was not only does Jesus have the key, Jesus is the key to heaven. And he basically tells us that. He says, "I am the door." And so pay attention to that, because when we get right here in chapter 4, we're going to see that a door is opened to John via Jesus. Okay, so a few other scriptures I want to give you just to kind of set the tone here. You know, Isaiah was a prophet. He's one of the 12 major prophets. The interesting thing about the book of Isaiah that we find in the Old Testament, it has 66 chapters in it. And so in some ways, I kind of refer to the book of Isaiah as like a mini version of the Bible, because it covers a lot of the same things just in a shorter way. And so there's a prophecy in Isaiah chapter 9. And you know, when we look back at the Old Testament and even the Jewish people, there's a division there. And you had the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And the Sadducees kind of stopped with the first 5 books, what's referred to as the Torah. And so they kind of stopped with the law when Moses was given the law. But the Pharisees, they also read and believe and teach the prophets. And so I liken that kind of today, even in Christianity. There's a lot of divisions in Christianity as to what people believe and what they don't believe. But we have to kind of remind ourselves that it's one book. It's the Old Testament and the New Testament, and that it's one book expressed 2 ways, literally as the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. And so there's one everlasting covenant, and within the everlasting covenant is the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. Now, I've said this before, but I just wanted to say that again. And so going into Isaiah chapter 9, just want to say this. It's a prophecy about the Messiah. Now I say that again because in Jewish culture, there's a lot of people that may not even believe in a Messiah. And if they do believe in a Messiah, there's a little confusion there as to who he will be. And a lot of people in the Jewish culture do not realize that the Messiah will be the Son of God. However, David recognized that fact. He said, "The Lord said to my Lord," I've told you that verse, but Isaiah also knew that. Let's see what else Isaiah knew. So in Isaiah chapter 9, verses 6 and 7, we can read, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end, upon the throne of David and over his kingdom, to order it and establish it with judgment and justice, from that time forward, even forever. For the zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this." And again, we're talking about the Messiah. And as we Christians believe, Jesus, Yeshua, that's his Hebrew name, he is the Messiah. He was the Messiah. He is the Messiah. And so that's where chapter 4 and 5 really relate to in the book of Revelation. It's this understanding that there is a Messiah and that this Messiah will be the Son of God. Let's kind of begin to grasp that as we get into Revelation chapter 4 and verse 1. And so in Revelation chapter 4 verse 1, it says, "After these things I looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, Come up here, and I will show you things which must take place after this." And so we have to remember, John is told in chapter 1 and verse 19 to write down the things which he has seen, the things which are, and the things which will take place after this. But now Jesus, this is a whole nother different vision. So in Revelation chapter 1, chapter 2, and 3, again, I would state that these are the things that are. That's the things that are that John's being shown while he's on the island of Patmos, when Jesus appears behind him. But then at some point in time, John has to talk about and also write down the things he has seen and the things that come after this, after that meeting with Jesus. So what I would suggest to you is this is a different vision. It's a different thing that John is being shown. And again, in Revelation 4:1, it says, after these things I looked. So what I'm suggesting here is the vision that John is seeing now is when Jesus is telling him to write down the things that come after this. It's after the letters to the churches. This is a different vision, and because John's saying, after these things I looked. Now, is Jesus still there with him? I don't think so, because Jesus is going to call him up to heaven. So let's pay attention. It says, after these things I looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven. And guess who's opening that door? And John says, and the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, come up here, and I will show you things which must take place after this. So again, this is a different, separate event. Jesus is calling John up to heaven in a way that's a sort of a rapture. He's being called up to the third heaven. And Jesus is going to show him things which must take place after this vision. Okay? Now, again, we're reminded that John is on the island of Patmos, probably somewhere around 90 AD. He gets that first vision. Jesus appears behind him. He's told to write down the things he's seen, the things that are, which are that visitation and the letters to the churches, and to write down the things that come after this. But the interesting thing is John, in this vision, he's called up to heaven because that voice, probably Jesus, says, come up here. Again, it's a type of specific rapture for John to the third heaven. He's going to be shown more things because Jesus says, I will show you things which must take place after this. So, again, a separate vision. Now, did you miss it? What I'm referring to here, it's traditionally taught that is the rapture, because chapter 4 comes after the letters to the churches. Now, again, we're taught not to put anything into Scripture, but to pull out the meaning. So, if you're a pre-tribulation person, the pre-tribulation rapture is based on this verse, Revelation 4:1. And so here's what I'm trying to point out. If you had never heard of a rapture, would you think that Revelation chapter 4:1 has anything to do with the rapture of the church? You know, if we pull out the simple meaning of that verse, John is being told to come up here to the third heaven to be shown the rest of the visions for the book of Revelation. That is the simple meaning and the simple understanding. Now, is there symbolism there? That's the rapture of the church because it comes after the letters to the churches? I don't know. You decide. For me, I don't see that. I try to take the Bible as literal as possible. And all I see and all I read there is that John is being told to come up here. For example, you know, if we think about it, we saw a possible rapture in Revelation 1, verse 13, where it talked about Jesus coming on the clouds. And I told you then that wasn't the rapture, that was a foreshadowing of what's to come. So again, here, is this a foreshadowing? What I would suggest at best is that it's a picture of a rapture, where John is being raptured up to the third heaven to be shown the visions for the rest of the book of Revelation that he's to send to the 7 churches. Again, he's told to write down the things he has seen, which there are visions he has seen. We're going to determine that. And there's things which were chapters 1, 2, and 3. It's Jesus visiting him on the island of Patmos, telling him to write down the letters to the churches and to write down his visions and to send them out to the 7 churches. And then he's to write things that take place after this, after that visitation with the Lord. Obviously, when we get into Revelation chapter 4 and 5, this is a vision. And we're going to try to determine, is this one he's already seen, or is this one that came after that visitation with the Lord, that first visitation with the Lord on the island of Patmos? So again, Revelation 4:1, I'm going to read it again. Listen to it. Let's try to pull out the meaning. He says, after these things I looked, meaning after the letters to the churches. And behold, a door standing open in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, come up here, and I will show you things which must take place after this. So again, if this is a vision, a separate vision that John's having after that first visitation on the island of Patmos, and this vision is also on the island of Patmos, then this is something that comes after that first visitation. That means the things that we're about to see, these are things that come after that first visitation, which means that the book of Revelation, once again, had nothing to do with what took place in 70 AD. Now, I will say this, if this is a vision he has already seen, then maybe some of the things were about things that have already happened. So let's get into it and let's try to discern. Is this a vision John has already seen, or is this a vision about something that has already happened?
The Apostle Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 2, I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago, whether in the body I do not know, or whether out of the body I do not know. God knows such a one who was caught up to the third heaven.
If you like this video and like to see more, be sure to check out my website. It's www.coolcombat.com, because we battle against powers and principalities. But the cool thing is the war has already been won. We may have battles to fight, but the war has already been won by Jesus Christ, our King, King of the universe. You can also check out my YouTube page, which is www.thespiritofprophecy.com. I'd like to thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of it. Stick with me. I'm going to continue to show and tell you things probably you've never heard or seen before. And it's all about the book of Revelation. It's all about the good news of God. I thank you for watching. Be blessed.